Hi, my name is Nathaniel. I'm currently year 3 in Ngee Ann Poly studying financial informatics, and here is my TFI exercise.
Hi, today I'll be going through my week 4 practical of TFI, where we were tasked to allow a worksheet to be selected and consolidated, a workbook to be accepted and consolidated, and consolidated into a new workbook. And within this new workbook, we will be allowed to create an average and save it into that workbook, as well as print out the message. Okay, so what we first did was to select a workbook message box, which what it does is to tell the user to select a workbook. So you can see here, please select a workbook. Next, you will go into a select file activity, which allows the user to select XLSX file, and this file will be saved into this file path variable. So file path variable is a string that I have created. So this variable will then be input into the flow decision, and you'll check it using this code path.getExtension file path equals to .xlsx. So what it does is check the string that is a .xlsx, and then ensure that this will ensure that the file is a .xlsx file. If it's not true, it will prompt a error message to the user using the error message box and tell the user file is not compatible, please try again. And this will create a loop by returning to the select file activity previously, allow the user to select a new file. The new selected file will then go through the flow decision again, and if it's a XLSX file, it will go into true and go into Excel application scope. This Excel application scope activity allows the retrieval of the workbook that is selected here, and you will save and you will put this output from that into this variable called workbook. So this workbook is of a variable type of workbook application, and this workbook is gotten from this file path that was selected just now. So what this scope is meant for is to actually allow us to retrieve all the names of the sheets within the workbook. The reason why we do this is to ensure that no matter what is the name of the sheets later on, we will be allowed to read the sheets. So for example, let's say if the sheet is called class 1, we can still read the sheet because we retrieve the name of the sheet within the workbook. So how we do this is basically, first we want to figure out how many number of sheets are within this workbook. So what we do is we have a variable called number of sheets of type integer, and it has a value of workbook.getSheets.count. So what this does is you get the workbook that was saved just now, you get all the sheets, and then you count the number of sheets. So we do this because we want to assign the array length. So next we have a variable called sheets of a string array, and it has the value of new string number sheets -1 curly brackets open and close. So what this does is actually you will assign the length of the array. So why is it -1 is because the way programming works is that 0 is the first number, so it will be 0, 1, 2, 3 example if there is 4 worksheets. So now that we have done that, we go into a for each worksheet. So what this does is a for each loop to check that each worksheet in the workbook, we want to assign it to the array. So how we assign it is we have sheets count. So count is actually a variable that we set the default value to be 0. So what this means is that sheets in position 0, we want to get the worksheet and turn it into a string. So why will we get the worksheet name is because we have gotten we use get sheets to get all of the worksheets within the workbook, and then we run for each worksheet within this set of values. And after this is done, we want to increase the count by 1 so that the array will move to the next column, and then we will save the new worksheet name for the next worksheet into this array as well, and we'll keep running until the worksheet has been filled up and there isn't any more worksheets within the workbook. After which this will close the workbook so that we can continue running the application, as if we do not close the workbook there might be problems later on. So after all this is done, we will want to reset the count, and we reset the count to 1. This is so that later on we can identify if this is the first worksheet that we have read or it's not the first worksheet that we have read. Next, we allow the user to select a folder location, and this will be the folder that is used to store the new file that is created later on. So the folder that is selected will go into a folder path variable, and this folder path variable is of string type. Similarly, we have an input dialog which allows the user to input the new file name, and the name that the user inputs will go into a name variable of type string as well. After which we want to delete the old output file. So we do this by using the folder path plus the name.xlsx to check if there's any file of the similar name there, and we'll delete that file. As if we do not delete that file, the values later on will just be appended to this old worksheet, and the values will not be clean and will not be accurate. Next, we have a for each activity. So in this for each activity, we want to check that for each worksheet within this array. So what we do is that for each worksheet within the array of sheets, we bring it to a read range so that we can read what is within the worksheet. So we use the file path previously mentioned at the start, and then we read the worksheets, each sheets, by having the worksheet name become a string so that the read range activity can understand that which is the worksheet we want to read. Next, what we do is we have if the worksheet is first. So the reason why I set the count just now to 1 is to check whether the worksheet is the first worksheet. So if the worksheet is the first worksheet, then we will do a write range for the first worksheet, and in this write range what it does is it allows to add headers here, so you can add headers, as well as what it does is to allow the you will set the name to sheet 1, and you will also have temp data. So temp data is the value that is gotten from the read range, so the value that is read from the file of worksheet.toString, which was gotten from our array. So if we did not use an array, we will have to write in the actual name of the sheet. So for example, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, which would actually be inconvenient, as it will mean that we cannot use this application for other types of files. Next, what we do is you will add 1 to the count, as the first sheet has been already written into the worksheet, and we will run again for however many sheets there are in the workbook. Next, you will append range if the count is not 1, which means that this is not the first worksheet that we have read and added to the worksheet. So now we will append the temp data of this new worksheet, the second worksheet, into sheet 1, which is the same sheet as the previous worksheet. And in this one, we do not allow it to put the headers, so there will not be a conflict of headers. So after all of the worksheets have been gone through and added to the same worksheet named sheet 1, we have ask message box, and this ask message box is to ask if we would like to find the average of the values. So the decision that is made will be placed into a choice variable, and this choice variable is of type string. So we'll go in a flow decision, and if the choice is equals to yes, then it will go to a sequence where you'll find the average. However, if it's false, the application will stop. So let's say it's true, we go into the sequence where we will use a Excel application scope to open up the output file that was previously created. Then what we do is we read range of the sheet created, and then we write the header cell, the average, into the cell C1, and we'll write the formula, which is equals average B colon B into C2. And what this does is a formula to find the average of all the values from the B column. Next, we will read the output file, and what this does is it will read the output created by the formula above, as we are reading the same cell C2 here, and then we close the workbook after reading it. Lastly, we create an output message. So where do we get the output is from the read output cell, so the result will be saved into output variable, and output variable is of type double. As we get the average will be saved as a double, and it's not a whole number. So now we output the file, output the message, and it says the average is plus output to string. So now if I was to show you the application while it's running, so it will first ask please select a workbook. So I will select let's say I select a workbook that's not XLX. So it tell you it's non-compatible, please try again. So now I'll choose the correct one, CT marks. So it has read the file and it has gotten all of the sheet names. So now if I were to choose the folder that I would want, which would be here. So I'll choose the TFI folder, click OK. So now I put the new file name, which is CT marks consolidated. Then I will click OK, and then it has run. So now the file has actually been saved. So now it will ask me, would you like to find the average of the value? So I'll click yes, because I want to find the average, and now it's given me the average. So now if once it's done, the application will stop, and now I'll show you the file in TFI. So we have seen this new CT marks consolidated, which was not there previously when we were choosing the files to be read. And if we run it, we can see that there is no conflict of the headers, and all of the classes are put in the correct area, and we have gotten the average as well. Right, so let's say if I were to run the application again without actually requesting for the average. Okay, so let's say we choose desktop and we click OK and we just put test. Right, so let's say you put no, it will stop the application. And if you look at the file, you will actually see that there will be no average. You can see there is no average. So what this allows you to do is that, let's say in the event you want to consolidate files that actually does not have numbers, or does not fit, or you do not want the average, then you can actually do that as well. So this application is actually very diverse, and you can use it for other types of functions as well. So other than that, what I actually did was to create a main sequence first before actually doing that. And the unique difference is that this actually contains some loops, so like the do while loop and the do while loop and the if, to whether the user wants to find the average or not. Thank you very much.